Good evening, everyone. And okay, we'll be getting into the business of the day very fast, so it can be done on time or anytime for questions and the likes. All right. So our topic is practical poultry management, the important equipment and why they matter. So we're basically going to be talking about reviewing different poultry equipment. I'm going to be breaking it down to 10 major equipments, like just broad topics on like the different equipment needed for different things on the poultry farm. And then we'll just talk about why they are important and the mistakes that you could also make when getting the equipment, or mistakes that you could make when you've gotten the equipment and then you're not using them properly. All right. So poultry farming is not just about feeding your birds, like, because some people will just feel like poultry farming is easy now. So this is just to get birds and just give them as much feed as they want, give them feed, give them water, and that's all. They'll be fine, they'll just keep growing. I mean, look at the local birds on that are just walking freely on the road or my streets. They are fine. Who is feeding them? Nobody is feeding them, but they are growing, they are doing all right. So when you are going into commercial poultry farming, especially, you have to be very careful. So there are a lot of things you have to put in place. There are a lot of things you have to note. It's not just about feeding them and then just sitting down and waiting for your profit to come just because you feel you are feeding them right and giving them the right things. Because the difference between making profits and also making losses, it often comes down to how well we are managing our poultry birds. Because you can be making profit and at the same time be making losses. And if you look at it, those losses can actually be prevented, because if you prevent those losses in this scenario, that means your profit will be more. All right. So you can be making profits and at the same time be making losses. But what if you can put some things in place to actually reduce the losses so that your profits can actually be more than it used to be? All right. And this management, a lot of times, depends heavily on the right equipment you're using. How well are you using the equipment you have? And how well are you actually, getting the equipment that will actually make the efficiency on your farm better, more effective ways of doing things on your farm. So let me just mention that a few things that getting the a right equipment, how does it help you? Good equipment majorly will help to reduce stress, um, stress for yourself and also stress on your poultry birds. So good equipment will reduce stress on you, the farmer. It will also reduce stress on your birds. Good equipment will help to prevent disease outbreaks. It will help to save labor and also time. The time that you're supposed to use to do some things, when you have the right equipment, it helps to shorten the time. All right. It also helps to improve growth rate and also egg production. It helps to reduce feed and water wastage too. So these are some of the things that having a good equipment, or when you use the right equipment properly, these are some of the things that is going to help you with. Now, let me just break it down. I'm going to be talking about different classes of equipment on your poultry farm. I hope you're with me up to this point, because now we're going to be delving into the different equipment proper. So, number one, I'm going to be talking about the brooding equipment. We all know what brooding entails. You usually carry out brooding between 0 to 4 weeks of life for your poultry birds. So between 0 to 4 weeks, that's when you're brooding. All right, that's when you're majorly brooding, and there are some key equipments that you need to have, and I'm going to be talking about why they are important. So, for your brooding equipment, for example, we have thermometer, we have brooder guard, we have the heat source, which can be different brooders like charcoal. It can be a charcoal source of heat. It can be the gas source of heat. It can be electric source of heat. So whichever one you're going to be using, you will have to make sure that you're using it properly. Because I feel there are some things that, okay, you might say that you don't have money to get the brooder gas or the electric brooder, but even if you have charcoal pots, are you using it properly? Even if that's what you have to make sure that you're using it in the proper way. So these are some of the different things that we have. We also have the brooder guard, which is a circular barrier that you usually use to demarcate your chicks into a particular cat. Like you know that you've already measured this part, that okay, it will take this number of birds for this number of period. So you just put them in that particular part of the poultry house, and then you surround them with that brooder guard. Most times, this brooder guard helps to, protect them from a lot of things. It prevents them from just, how do I put it? Just straying away from where they're not supposed to go to. So, for example, now the heat source. For the heat source, if you're going to be using bulbs, there's some people that use bulbs. I don't know how effective that is, but there are some certain bulbs that they are sold, that emanates a lot of heat for poultry houses during the brooding process. For charcoal, if you're going to be using a charcoal pot, make sure you're using it properly. Like, make sure you carefully select the charcoals that you'll be putting into the pots. Make sure you carefully select them. Make sure there are no maybe sticks or like paper or things that can cause the charcoal pot to start smoking. Because when it starts smoking excessively, you already know that it might choke your birds. And when it starts choking your birds, you can actually lose those birds in one night. So make sure that your charcoal potting is in a way that you carefully selected your charcoal into the pot, and then you do what you're supposed to do to make sure that the smoke is to a minimal level before you actually bring it into the brooder house for your birds. Also, we have gas. Some people use gas. I don't know how efficient that is, but some people say they use gas, so they just put on their gas and put it in the middle of the house. It has worked for some people, but just make sure the gas you're using, make sure the burner is not smoking. There's some gas burners that you're using that will just start smoking excessively. So make sure it is not smoking in any way. It is not emanating anything that will be dangerous to the health of your poultry birds. We also have gas brooder. We have electric brooder too. Those are, you get, like the modern age kind of heat source you use for your poultry birds for brooding. We also have thermometer. Thermometer is very important. There's some people that will say that, why do I need to get a thermometer? Like, if I enter the poultry house, I can actually feel with my body. You can't feel with your body. You can't feel. There's no way you can actually tell me that how you are feeling is how your birds are actually feeling. No. Make sure you get a thermometer, because there's different temperature ranges for each week of the brooding stage that you need to stick with, so that this thermometer just helps you. It just helps you to know that, oh, the temperature in this house is already getting above normal, or is lesser than how it's supposed to be. So it is important you have a thermometer, a working thermometer, not just a thermometer that is not working properly. So make sure you get a thermometer that is working effectively. All these things, you're supposed to have them in place before you start brooding your birds. Why these equipments matter? We understand that chicks, once they are born, they don't know how to regulate their body temperature yet. It's just like a newborn baby. When you give birth to a newborn baby, what do? They'll, people used to say you wrap them up like shawarma. You actually have to use, a lot of clothes to wrap the baby, to make sure that the baby doesn't catch a cold. Because at that point, the baby can't. It's the same thing for poultry birds. Once they hatch, they cannot regulate their body temperature yet. So you have to help them. All right, adjust gradually. That's why usually at 4 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks, their body is already adjusted, especially when they are already fully feathered. Once the feather on their body has already grown fully, they can now fully regulate their temperature by themselves. But during the period of brooding, they cannot regulate their body temperature. And once you fail in giving them in using the right equipment and do what you're supposed to do, poor brooding can lead to high mortality. You can lose your birds in just one night. Like I said, you can lose all your birds in one night if you don't do things the proper way. It can lead to you having weak birds, because when they're not able to regulate their temperature well during the brooding stage, some will struggle. They are struggling to grow, and then you see some of them just walking with no strength in them. And it also leads to slow growth. They might not grow well because while they are trying to regulate their body temperature. So now if you don't help them in doing that, you see some of these birds huddling in a particular corner, like huddling together. When they start huddling together, of course they will stay off food, they will stay off water, so they're not going to grow well. So it will lead to slow growth. So once you see your birds clustering together in a particular spot, that should tell you that they are cold. And if you see them moving far away from the heat source, that's to tell you that they are hot. So there are some basic things that you will see to know that, okay, this is what is going on. Once they are clustering together in one particular place together, they are cold. If they are moving far away from the heat source, they are hot. But once they are evenly spread across the pen, the poultry house, and they are eating and drinking well, just know that the temperature is optimal. Now let's move to feeding equipment. We've talked about brooding equipment. Now let's move to feeding equipment. What are the major feeding equipments that you use? We have feeders. It can either be plastic, it can be metal, it can be automatic feeders. The feeding trough also. There are some that the ground tray feeding feeders, the ground tray feeders, and we also have feeders that are not flat like that on the surface. There are some that, okay, like, for example, the metal feeders where you pour the feed into a hole and then it comes down into a place where it's a circular place where the birds can all eat together, as compared to the ground feeding tray that they will enter it and most of them will just pull inside, or do all sort of things inside, which sometimes can contaminate the feed inside the ground feeding tray. We also have the flip top feeders. That one, they won't be able to enter into the flip top because it is covered. So it's just their head that can get into it. So that one is usually more appropriate compared to the ground feeding tray. But if it's a ground feeding tray you can afford, please use it, but use it properly. That means you have to make sure that once you feed them, the morning after, make sure you check and scrape, the feed, the ones that is remaining, the feed that has already, that is already stuck onto the surface of the feeder. I'm very sure a lot of people understand what I'm saying. Okay, once after like a day, like the second day in the morning, once you pick up the feeders, you see that some of the feed particles is already stuck to the surface of the feeder. And sometimes you see their feces, their fecal materials already there. So you can just scrape it off and even clean before you put fresh feed inside. So that's a way you can actually make the ground feeding tray effective for yourself if you cannot afford more than the ground feeding tray. For the feeders, either plastic, metal, or automatic, make sure don't go and get feeder that adult birds are supposed to use, and then you're getting adult feeders for young chicks. That won't work. That means you're not using their equipment right. Or you're getting chick feeder, you're getting it for adult birds. They will just be throwing the feeder around because they are bigger than the feeding trough or the feeders. If it's plastic, if it's metal, if it's automatic, just make sure you are getting the right feeder for their age, appropriate for the different ages of your birds. Now, why are these equipment, these feeders, the feeding trough? Most times the feeding trough, there are some people that use the wooden feeding trough. They're usually long. All right, they're usually very long, and then the birds will dip their head inside the feeding trough. There's some people that use the metal one, and also especially for the battery cage system. The battery cage system definitely makes use of feeding trough. All right, that is usually attached to the battery cage. So make sure that it is the correct size. Don't use the battery cage meant for young birds, for adult birds. And don't use the battery cage meant for young birds for adult birds, or the one meant for adult birds for young birds. Use age appropriate feeders. Why do these equipment, why do they matter? They help to prevent feed wastage if you are using it correctly. Because if you're not using it correctly, you are not doing anything to actually help your matter. So if you're using the correct equipment, feeding equipment in the right way, it helps to prevent feed wastage, because we all understand that feed is like it takes the biggest chunk of your capital when you start poultry farming, or even in the process of poultry farming. Feed takes more of the money, it takes the higher percentage of what you're spending. Also, this equipment helps to ensure equal access to feed. All right. So when you evenly spread the feed into the feeding tray, into the feeding trough, it helps to ensure equal access to the feed. Every bird will be able to, especially when you get the don't just so now you have to get the correct number of equipment for the number of birds you have. You can't tell me that you have just one feeding equipment, just one for maybe 50 birds. That won't work. Make sure you get the correct number for the number of birds that you have, because it helps to ensure equal access to feed. Also, it helps to reduce contamination. It helps to reduce contamination, especially for those feeding equipment that the birds can get into it. It helps to reduce contamination with, their fecal material, and also water won't be able to get into them, because most times when water gets into the feed, they start kicking and they start, developing things, and also molds and the other things. All right. So, make sure you avoid filling your feeders to the brim. All right, stop overfilling your feeders, because when you overfill your feeders, you're already entering into wastage. All right. Also, make sure you adjust the feeder height to the bird's back level. Make sure that the feeder height is right. For people that are hanging their feeders, there's some people that hang their feeders, maybe the metal one or the plastic one. Make sure it's at the right height for your bird, so that they can be able to get access into the feeders to get what they need. All right. So now we are moving into watering equipment. We've dealt with feeding equipment. Now let's move to the equipment you use to give them water. And some of the key equipment you need: the drinkers, either manual or the automatic water system, which uses the nipple system. Okay, for the automatic, that's for people who use battery cage. And even there are some people now that use the floor raised birds. Now there's somebody you can actually run the nipple system even for birds that are being raised on the floor. All right. We also need water storage tanks. Yeah, water storage tanks, they're very important. So these are some of the key watering equipment that you need on your farm. Now, water is very important. We all understand that water is I've forgotten this popular adage in Yoruba that talks about water and how it's very, very important for life. All right, water is actually more important than feed. Feed is important, don't get me wrong. Feed is important, but water, for example, for humans now, do you know that humans can generally survive for 1 to 2 months without water? Without food, sorry. Humans can survive for like 1 to 2 months without food, provided that they have access to water. You can actually survive without food for that long. But you need to have constant water source. Once you're taking water without food, 1 to 2 months, you're actually fine. Usually around that 1 to 2, that's when maybe malnutrition starts setting in. Usually after 1 to 2 months. And for poultry birds now, poultry birds can actually survive a few days on water without food. So you should understand that water is very important. For example, the human body now is made up of 70% of water. And so you understand how water is essential to our daily life, and also for your poultry birds. And so make sure that water can be a source of contamination, a source of an infection source for your birds. So you have to make sure that whatever water you're giving to them, also feed. So feed is also important. Food is also a source of infection for your poultry birds. Water too. Water is something that can convey infective agents into your poultry beds. So make sure that the water you are giving to your birds, they are safe and they are fit for drinking. And I always say this, I think I mention it a lot, that the water that you yourself you cannot drink, don't give it to your birds. Don't say that they are just animals. No, they also have blood running through them, and they are living things just like you, even though we are higher animals. But they are living things, so you have to make sure that whatever water you're giving to them is water that you yourself you can drink. Whatever water is not fit for you, it is not fit for your poultry birds, because dirty water actually spreads diseases very fast, very very fast. Diseases like Newcastle, coccidiosis, okay, typhoid, cholera spreads quickly to your birds. So make sure that the water is always clean, and make sure that your drinkers and your water storage tanks, make sure you are washing them. For your drinkers now, I want to expect that, actually, for people rearing their beds on the floor, I expect that you wash your drinkers every day. Because if you don't, because the next like for a full day now, once you feed them and give them water for a full day, the next morning you already find feces, fecal material inside the drinkers, like on the sides. So I don't expect you to now use that same drinker and pour another set of, pour water again inside without washing it. So I expect that you wash it every single day. It is very important. Wash it. For people using automatic nipple system, make sure the nipples are, make sure you tap. You can do it even twice, because I expect that you should be doing a pen round every day, like twice every day. If you cannot even do it twice, at least once a day, go round, tap all those nipples and make sure that the water is actually coming out. Make sure they are not clogged, because you might think that in a particular cell of the battery cage, you might think that the birds they're actually drinking, they might actually, maybe that the particular nipple inside that cell is actually not working again. You just notice that that bird is just growing slimmer and getting dehydrated every day, and you did not know that. And then you now start coming that my egg production has reduced, though my birds are getting kiniko, they're already reducing in size. But you did not know, because there are a lot of things I found out that it's not even disease. There was nothing even happening to the bird, except the fact that the bird was dehydrated, and it was because the nipple system, they became faulty at some point. And then we started going around the pen house and tapping the nipples, and we just found out that a lot of the nipples in most of the cells were already blocked, and the birds were not getting access to water. So imagine the wahala that farmer has caused himself. I mean, and the loss is on him. It's not on anybody but himself. All right. So make sure that you are regularly checking your water system. Also, your water tanks. From time to time, test the water inside the water tanks. Wash those water tanks. You can wash the water tanks once in a month. Don't just assume that Shebi is up there, I don't need to do anything about it. Wash it like maybe once in a month. For your water system, for those using battery cage or those even rearing on the floor that use the nipple system, make sure you flush inside the nipple, inside the pipes every month to deslime inside, because when you don't deslime your water pipes, it's different things like biofilms, they form inside these water pipes, and then makes your birds get susceptible to different pathogens coming from these biofilms that are developed inside the water pipes. And what I mean by biofilm is slime. Have you noticed that water bottles, for example, maybe the water bottles for people that have children or people who use water bottles, plastic water bottles, when you put water inside that water bottle, after 3 days, go and check that water bottle. Just dip your hand to the sides, the inside of those water bottles. You see that it's slimy, right? Exactly. That's what is happening to your water pipes. Now imagine you don't deslime those water pipes in 6 months or in a year. Imagine the kind of water your birds are drinking. So please make sure you deslime your water pipes. All right, it's very important. It's a way of maintaining your equipment. All right. I think, okay. So just know that clean drinkers is very essential. Clean watering equipment is very, very important. And also always provide cool and fresh water to your birds. Now let's move to housing equipment. Housing equipment. Well, the house is like the major thing, like one of the major things, because I feel before you even move into, or you say you want to start a poultry farm, you have to put the housing into consideration. All right. You live in a house, so that means your poultry birds will need a house to stay. All right. Um, what are the key equipment that you need for their house, for a poultry pen house? Proper ventilation system, windows. You can get fans if you want to be, you can get window. Make sure there are windows. Or for if you cannot do windows for people, there are some people that when you build a house, you can actually put all those nets around the house to ensure proper ventilation. All right, you don't want to choke your birds the way you need fresh air, because as you are complaining about the fact that there is heat, there is heat. Your birds also feel heat, so make sure you don't choke them or deprive them of proper ventilation. All right, proper ventilation system is important. Lighting, your bulbs, you can use bulbs. There are some people, like in the olden days now, some people still do it, funny enough. Some people still do it, they still use lanterns. All right, whatever works for you, just make sure you're using it well. All right. So bulbs, there are some of the equipments that you need. Also, for people that want to do battery cage system, you need your battery cages. It's an important housing equipment. For the deep litter system, you need a deep litter setup. All right. You need to make sure that the inside of the pen house is conducive enough for your poultry birds. Also, you can get curtains if you want for extreme temperatures, like maybe when the weather is cold. For people that maybe in the battery cage system or even the deep litter system where the house is built in a way that we just have nets around the pen house, make sure you have this tarpaulin that you can use to cover the pen house round when there is extreme weather conditions, like maybe cold or maybe during the harmattan period. All right, make sure all those things are in place. Why do these equipments matter? Good ventilation helps to prevent heat stress. So when you put the proper windows in place or you have fans, it helps to prevent heat stress. It also helps to prevent some major respiratory diseases. There are some respiratory diseases that will not even occur if you have a proper ventilation system. Also, for lighting is important. It's essential that you understand the lighting mechanism when raising your birds. All right. Lighting helps to increase feed intake because, of course, when they are sensitized with the light, it makes them to keep eating. Birds will always eat as long as there is food available to them. They will always eat. So now imagine, like, throughout the day, even 24/7, you're putting on lights for them. They will keep eating. So you need to learn the proper way of providing lights for them when you're using bulbs. All right, and there's some people that maybe in the night, maybe they don't have, maybe for people that, okay, maybe overnight there is no, they might not have electricity. So people have lamps. All right, there's some people that have solar lamps now inside the pen house. So in the night, they just have the solar lamps. But you should understand that you should use these lights properly. During the day, there's nothing you can do about the natural lights, except maybe you cover or close the windows or something. I don't know. But for the artificial light that you're providing for them in the night, make sure you use it properly. Especially for layers now, don't put on the light overnight for them. Even when you're going to providing lights, make sure it's dim. All right, make sure it is dim. There are sometimes for people raising broilers now, they might want their broilers to catch up fast with their weight, and they put on lights for them overnight so that they will keep eating. But you should also be careful so that they don't overshoot their weights at the age when they are not supposed to reach their weights. All right, so you have to be careful. Lighting also affects egg production, like I said. So it is very important for layers. Now you can just put on dim lights for them in the night. It doesn't have to be bright. Don't use bright lights for them. There is a particular period where the light has to be off, or just dim lights in the middle of the night. All right. So now we understand. Okay, let me talk about layers. We understand that layers need consistent light about 16 hours per day for maximum egg production. But make sure you time it wisely, because there are sometimes they have to rest. They can't just keep eating all through 24/7, or they have to rest. All right, but at least for about 16 hours at most in a day. they need consistent light, but make sure you do not go above that. All right. So they don't, eat too much and they now start accumulating fats. All right. Now let's move to, okay, let me talk about the battery cage. Because it's very important. Battery cage is one of the one very important housing equipment for people who want to do the battery cage system. All right. But you have to make sure that your battery cage, especially for those that maybe you struggled to collect the money to get the battery cage, and then you now get it and then you're not managing it properly, that battery cage will not last. All right. If you're getting the battery cage system, make sure that you know that you have to do extra work in cleaning. You have to clean properly. You have to make sure that your, especially when you're using the feeding trough, and the make sure the feed is properly distributed every time. And then from time to time, you go into the feed house for the feeding trough. Make sure you are, it's like you're using your hands to shovel in and out of the feed, and and distribute evenly, because at some point one part will be higher than the other. So most of, like, just go once in a while into your farmhouse and just put your hand inside and just mix the feed and then distribute evenly in the feed trough. Excuse me. All right. Another thing is also the nipple, like I talked about during when we're talking about the watering equipment. Make sure you tap the nipples. Do it every day. All right. Make sure you tap the nipples to make sure that they are working properly, so that you are, like, rest assured that every bird in every cell is getting adequate water. All right, make sure you clean. There's a particular part, especially for the laying birds, the ones people using battery cage, where your eggs will fall to and everything. Sometimes maybe the egg would have even broken. Make sure you clean them immediately. Don't allow them to, accumulate these dirt or cobwebs or, things like that accumulate on the battery cage. It actually reduces the lifespan of the battery cage. So make sure you are properly and regularly taking care of every equipment you have on your farm, because if you're taking care of them, the equipment will actually last longer on your farm. All right. Now let's move to egg handling equipment. What are the examples? This is they're definitely for farmers that are raising layers. All right. Egg handling equipment for layers. Some of the key equipment that you need: egg trays, either plastic or paper trays. You need egg collection baskets. There's some people that you also need maybe like a storage shelf, especially for people that are they have a large number of layers on their farm. These equipment are very important. I mean, because the egg is like the end product of what you're getting. Like, while you're raising the birds, the egg is the end product. So you have to make sure that these eggs, they are handled with care. Excuse me. So while you are picking, you're not just picking your birds and picking your eggs and using your hand to pack them from one place to another. You will need egg trays, right? So as you are picking your eggs, you are putting it inside the egg trays. And therefore, some people maybe on a low scale level, you might not need egg tray. You might just need bowl, like a very clean bowl, a plastic bowl or something. That but that one you have to be very careful, because the eggs will be overlapping each other, which can lead to cracks sometimes. But if your eggs are not going to be much, you can actually make use of a bowl. All right. But most times, egg trays are usually more efficient. All right. So for your egg trays, if it's the plastic one, make sure it is cleaned. Don't use dirty egg trays to pack your eggs. For paper trays, sorry, for paper trays, once it is already bad, because there are sometimes some paper trays, maybe when for the ones that are not water resistant. For the paper trays that are not water resistant, once it becomes damp with water, most times it becomes non-effective. So it's just better you just discard and get a new one. All right. Your egg collection basket. There are some baskets you can actually use to collect eggs in large quantity. Also, your storage shelves for people that produce egg on a large scale. You can have your storage shelf to stack your eggs. All right. on each other to prevent them from, or maybe prevent you from just putting on the floor. Okay, you can just put them and arrange them into the storage shelf. It just makes a lot of things quite easy for you. Why do these equipments matter, especially for the egg handling equipment? It helps to prevent egg breakage. Like I said, it prevents egg breakage. It also helps you to maintain the egg quality. All right, it also helps to reduce contamination. Okay, like I said, it helps to maintain air quality. Maintaining air quality in a way that um some external things doesn't have, because eggs, if you think that things can't seep into the egg from the outside, then you're lying. These eggs have pores on them that you cannot see with your physical eyes, and then that's why they will tell you that once you collect your eggs, make sure you clean. Maybe if there are fecal materials attached to the outside of the egg, try and clean it before you start selling, or before you store them, because after a while all this fecal material, or maybe blood stains, or different things on the body, aside from the fact that it's maybe all these things, maybe pathogens from them can seep into the egg, it even makes your egg look dirty. I don't know, because if I see a vendor selling clean eggs, like the outer part of the egg is clean, and I see one that the eggs are dirty, I'll go for the clean one. All right, the clean eggs are more sellable. All right, so make sure that you clean your eggs very well before storing them. It helps to reduce contamination. It also helps you to maintain your egg quality. Then collect your eggs at least 2 times in a day. All right, it prevents the egg from stacking up in your poultry house. Now, sorry, let's move quickly now. Your health and biosecurity equipment. Some of the key equipment you need for health and biosecurity, we have foot baths that you used to put your disinfectants in at the entrance of your pen house, or your farm, at the entrance of your farm, or at the entrance of each pen house. Also, you need sprayers, like those knapsack sprayer that people use, crop farmers use. It's also important that you have them for disinfecting your pen houses. You also need gloves and boots. All right, they are good PPE to have on your farm. You also need, things like syringes for vaccination, for easy measuring of, drugs and the likes. Why do these equipments matter in health and biosecurity? It helps to reduce mortality. It helps to prevent disease from entering into the farm, especially the food baths. It also helps you to protect your investments. All right, because anybody that comes into your farm can bring deadly diseases into your farm. So you have to make sure you are protecting your farm, starting from the outside into the inside. All right. Now let's move to waste management equipment. What are some of the equipments you need for waste management? Shovels, wheelbarrows, and litter material. Okay, shovels, wheelbarrows usually needed to carry litter materials out of the farm. Now, why do these equipments matter? They help to prevent ammonia buildup. They help to prevent disease risk. It also helps to improve bed comfort, because when you remove litter materials from the farm and from the pen house, the atmosphere is less how do I put it? There's a way it feels lighter for them, because you're removing a bulk of waste material from the pen house. Because imagine yourself standing in the middle of a dump. You get in the middle of a dump, the smell is a lot. All right, now imagine what, and your birds can smell faster even than you. Okay, your birds can smell faster than you. So make sure that you don't allow litter materials to stay long inside your pen house. When you have this equipment, it allows you to easily carry litter materials out of the pen house and out of your farm. All right, let's move to the record keeping tools. And the record keeping tools, they are usually ignored. They are ignored a lot because people just feel it's not important. The key tools you need for record keeping: your notebook or your farm record book. Also, mobile apps on your phone. Yes, it is optional, but I mean, in this modern age, technology is making a lot of things easy. So I would advise you Actually learn about some of these mobile apps that are needed for record keeping to make your work easy and more effective. Why do these record keeping tools, why do they matter? It helps you to track feed consumption. It helps you to track mortality so far. It helps you to track your egg production. It also helps you to identify problems early. All right. For example, if you have a problem on the farm now, once you call your vets, they will ask for your history. And where do you get this history from? From your farm records. Okay. So make sure you keep records so you don't do guesswork. All right. Now, after saying all this, what are some of the common mistakes? Well, gradually rounding up. So, what are the common mistakes that farmers make? All right, with equipment. When we talk about equipment, number one is using the wrong equipment size. I've mentioned that earlier when I was talking about feeders. Using the wrong equipment size is one mistake you don't want to make because you feel that I've bought the right equipment, so why is it not working for me? You have to make sure that before you buy it, make sure that this is the right equipment for you. Make sure this is the right equipment size. Don't go and buy something needed for young birds or adult birds. Don't buy something needed for adult birds for young birds or something needed for layers. You're not buying it for broilers. I might not actually, work for them. Make sure you use the right equipment size. Then overcrowding, make sure you avoid overcrowding as much as possible. You might be using the right equipment and overcrowding will just be one major issue that is making the equipment, the effectiveness of the equipment, useless. All right, so make sure you prevent overcrowding. All right, don't overcrowd the birds. For a battery cage system, we already understand that won't pay for, although you are for, there's some people now that are locally fabricating their battery cages. Battery cages, you need to ask, what's the number of birds per cell? Once they tell you the number of birds per cell, don't put more than that number inside the cell. All right. For deep litter system, for the particular, make sure you measure the pen house. Don't put more than the birds are supposed to be in a pen house. Don't put later. Maybe, for example, 100 birds are supposed to stay in this particular space. At the end, you're putting 150 birds, feeling like they will manage themselves. No. So actually affect their productivity. And whatever equipment you think you are using, because if you're putting 150 birds in a place that is meant for 100 birds, and that particular space cannot contain more than the particular number of feeders and drinkers, imagine you won't be getting the right results because they are already overcrowded. That means the feeders and the drinkers in that pen house, number one, the space is not enough. Number two, the feeders and drinkers will not be enough to take care of all of them inside that pen house. All right. Also, another common mistake is poor cleaning habits. Like I said, every morning you need to clean every morning. Wash their drinkers, wash their feeders, clean, remove the cobwebs. All right, make sure you make cleaning a daily habit on your farmhouse. It's very important you have that habit of cleaning every day. Okay. Another one common mistake is ignoring biosecurity. When you ignore biosecurity, then you're actually giving a free pass for disease agents to enter your farm. And once you give them a free pass, they will, they will thrive. Disease agents will thrive on your farmhouse and they will make sure they get the best out of your farmhouse. And when disease agents are getting the best out of your farmhouse, out of your pen house or your farm, you are the one that is losing. Okay, so make sure you put things in place to make sure that your biosecurity is tight. Then another common mistake, this is the last point, is trying to save money by avoiding basic tools. Like I mentioned earlier, the thermometer, you are using your own body to measure the temperature in the pen house. That is wrong. You are avoiding basic tools like thermometer. Why? Because you are trying to save money. How much is a thermometer? I know that it might be expensive for some people, but in the long run, you save towards it. Buy it. It's important. Because you can't just use your own body to measure or say that, okay, this is the temperature, it's okay, it's optimal for them. No, you need the thermometer to tell you that, okay, the temperature in this pen house falls within the optimal range. All right. Try not to save money, because when you are saving money and not buying the basic tools, it might later affect you. That money that you don't want to spend, you still end up spending it. All right. So please, good poultry management is not about expensive systems. Like I mentioned, you don't have to have the expensive tools. Whatever tools that you can have, that you can afford, make sure you use them in a way that they work for you. They work properly for you. Use them well. Don't just say that I wish I can buy this, I wish I can buy the ones that you have. Use them properly. All right, it's about using the right equipment correctly and consistently. All right, please, because a farmer who invests in proper equipment will spend less, we lose fewer birds, and we make more profits. All right. So, in closing, I would say that just make sure you take care of all your equipment, whatever equipment you're buying, take care of them properly so that they have a prolonged lifespan and they work longer for you. Because when you're taking care of them, definitely the equipment will be doing what it's supposed to do for you. The equipment will also take care of you as you're taking care of your equipment. All right. So that will be all for today. Can we have questions now? Patrick, so I'm done. Now we can take questions.
Okay. Thank you very much for that wonderful session. So we'll take questions now. If you have any questions jotted down, you can unmute your mic and ask. You can also type them down in the comment section if you don't want to talk. So we'll read it out and to be answered. Uh, Banjo is raising his hand. You may unmute and speak. Okay, so while we are maybe thinking about our question, I would just like to um, emphasize that if we want to get any equipment for our poultry needs, you can visit www.afrimash.com and then search on the search bar, and yeah, you place your order for the equipment and delivered to you in no time. Do we have any questions before we close the session?
Everyone.
Hello, good evening.
Okay, I have a question to ask. So my question is, as a beginner in layer production, is it advisable to start with a day old chicks, or better still start with a point of lay? So that is my question.
Dr. Tewe, did you get that?
Yeah, I got that. Mr. Kingsley, yes, I got that. It's a question that I've heard a lot actually. So most times I usually don't have a direct answer, a direct response because of how bad the system has gone now. Before we used to have trusted suppliers for point of lay, but these days it's actually quite difficult, except you are very sure of who you are getting. Like maybe the vendor you're getting it for is a trusted vendor. All right. So if you know that you have a trusted vendor for point of lay, it's actually advisable to get point of lay for when you want to start off with the laying business. All right, laying birds. However, I usually advise that you might think it's a lot. You might think it's a lot of money because for layers, you don't start seeing your profit until about 17 to 18 weeks, right? Usually from average, on an average, 18 weeks. That's when you start seeing your profit, right? It can take, it's a while. It's a very long time. But still, if you can, I will advise you brood your birds, all right? Because when you are brooding your birds, you know what you're doing. Because you are the one that's going to get your end product, right? So you're going to invest more in it. You're going to put your time, your energy. You're going to get the right things for them, to get the right information compared to a vendor you're not sure of. That you're buying point of labor. You don't know how the vendor already raised the birds. You don't know. Because as some people these days that are just not raising delaying birds that maybe at 12 weeks or 14 weeks, they're already out of my hands. So they don't put in as much effort as you yourself that will be getting the profits later on. They don't put as much effort into it. So if you can, like I said, like I mentioned, I don't usually have a direct answer. If you have a trusted vendor, please, you can get point of view. But if you don't have trusted vendor, please get build and just raise them. I know it's a while, it can take a while, it can take a lot of effort, but you know you yourself will thank yourself for it because you did want to raise them up to the point when they start laying. I hope you understand what I said, Mr. Kingsley.
Yeah, I understood. Thank you very much for the
All
answer.
right, sir.
I appreciate. Okay, can I ask a brief question again?
All
Cons-
right, no problem.
Concerning about the feeding of broiler and layers. I want to the feeding ratio. Is it the same the way you feed the way we feed layers? Should it be the same with the way we feed our broilers?
No, it's definitely not the same because layers are raised for egg production, right? Broilers are majorly raised for meat, right? So the rate at which a broiler eats is different from the rate at which layers eat, right? Because layers are not eating for to have a lot of meat, right? So there is a chart. There's actually a feed chart where you have the amount of feed you're supposed to like. There is a feed chart for the amount of feed that each bird is supposed to take. The standard amount of feed one bird is supposed to take per day. So we have a chart for broilers, we have a chart for layers, we have a chart for broilers, for turkeys. All right. So there's an amount of feed they're supposed to consume daily, and for broilers, you see that it's actually different. Although usually when they are, from day old, sometimes they might not be different, like that different. That's why you see some people brooding, brooding broilers and layers together until 4 weeks of age. All right, but there's the age they get to that their feed intake is different. What broilers will eat, layers, that's not what they're supposed to consume. All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
All right. Thank you for that question. Does anybody else have any question they'd like to ask or a clarification regards the poultry farming experience? So I think that all questions for today. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming to learn and join this session. Uh, See you everyone another time.